That was her style, not mine. Good evening. Welcome to the 2017-18 school year. It just happens that we're having our meeting tonight on the very first day of school, which I understand went very well today. Today is September 5th, and this is the Education Committee. Are there any announcements or communications?
There we go. Okay. Today, we welcomed 4,129 students back to school for the new school year. The Upper Dublin High School class of 2018 met to launch their traditional senior year activities. Our 4 elementary schools are welcoming to kindergarten the Upper Dublin High School class of 2030. Hard to imagine, but the class of 2030. So this is a very special time of year, and we send a hearty cardinal thank you to all of our students, families, faculty, and staff for a very positive and energizing first day of school. We did, of course, have a few transportation glitches, which unfortunately is to be expected, but we believe that everything has now been ironed out. If it has not, our transportation department continues to work on it, and we will have everything shipshape as soon as possible. I know of interest to the board are the data regarding vaccinations, inoculations, and I can tell you that as of August 31st, the last time we reported, we had 150 students whose families had not yet submitted their paperwork. Today, we are down to 89, so we are feeling very comfortable that we will meet our expectation of having all of this done before September 12th, which is the first date when we will begin to exclude students from school if they do not have the required vaccinations. So with that, we're up and running.
Thank you, Dr. Wheeler. There are minutes on the agenda and from the May 30th Education Committee meeting, so if anyone has any changes to that, send them to Brooke, please. So we are ready. We have one presentation tonight, a preliminary data presentation. So we're ready for that now.
Good evening. We're going to do a brief representative data presentation. It's a first glance, first blush at academic achievement scores. This does not include growth scores and other things that might affect our school performance profile. That data doesn't get released to us until October, at the end of October, so we'll make a more formal, full data presentation, either the Education Committee or at the end of November or at the beginning of December. And I will pass this presentation along to Dr. Miner, who will kick us off with
Thank you, Mrs. Morrison. So in the first slide, we have our English language arts results. And as you can see, we have gone back to 2015 and displayed them for each year. Our scores were quite good this year, an improvement over last year for the most part. If you look kind of diagonally, so 5th grade 2017, 4th grade 2016, and 3rd grade 2015, you can kind of track the cohort and you can see some consistency within the cohort. So we're pleased with our ELA scores. Of course, our goal is always to get to 100%, so we are working towards that. Our math scores also show improvement for the most part, particularly 2016 to 2017 3rd grade. And if you even look back to 2015, there's a lot of improvement in the math scores between 2015 and 2017. And again, some consistency in the cohort with the exception of that 2015 3rd grade year. So we are, again, pleased with the improvement, but looking to continue to improve and get towards that goal of 100% of students reaching proficiency. In science, we had 92.3% proficiency in fourth grade. Again, an improvement over the previous years, and so we're very pleased. We've certainly done a lot of curriculum work in science, and it looks like that is headed in the right direction. And Mrs. Marsden, I don't know if you want to speak to eighth grade.
See that our eighth grade score, while it may be disappointing, we continue to make all of the standards. Students aren't tested in science between fourth and eighth grade. To take that eighth grade science test, they're covering 4 curriculum, and that is reflected in the science score. I'll have some very good news, though, in terms of ultimately where our science training leads with our Keystone Biology exams. Thank you, Dr. Miner. I think I'll take it from here in terms of PSSA data. We've been working very, very intensely with our PSSA scores. I think everybody here knows that in 2015 the state rolled out new PSSA scores that were very challenging, and we are rising to meet that challenge. We're looking forward to a new Sandy Run schedule that gives additional minutes of instruction. And as we continue to develop our curriculum, we hope to continue scores go up. Mathematics, again, you can see in 2015 we started relatively low, and each year in 6th grade we continue to go up. And if you read the data going from 2015 6th grade to 7th grade, you can see that there's considerable increase. Get to the 8th grade data. I would be remiss if I didn't explain that students in the 8th grade take 2 exams. They take the PSSA exam and they take Algebra 1 Keystone exam. And there is no way to prepare students for both at the same time. This year in 2017, 93% of our students passed the Keystone with 93.6%. There were no students who were below basic, and you can see the number of that, the N is 204. That's a significant number of our class taking Algebra 1 Keystones in 8th grade. Unfortunately, that has a negative effect on our 8th grade PSSA scores. We actually have a good number of students we've identified who have passed the Algebra 1 Keystone exam but have not been able to pass the 8th grade. Part because they didn't have the opportunity to prepare for it because they were Algebra 1 class. We are hoping at some point that the Pennsylvania Department of Education reviews that requirement to take both tests and would excuse our Algebra 1 students from taking the 8th grade test. What you're looking at here, and it's very important to note this, is the end of course. So every single student who was in the spring sitting of the Algebra 1 Keystone, Biology Keystone, or English Literature Keystone, that is the result. Further down the road, when we get to our when we get to our school performance profile, you'll see a different number there. You'll see every student who's passed it. Students who have the opportunity to retest, and so those numbers will look. You can see there, though, some significant growth and improvement in 2017 for our Algebra 1. We are still looking at pathways for mathematics that will help us ultimately improve that final Algebra 1 score. I do want to share with you, however, that 79%, because students retake that test, does increase before students. In terms of biology, we could not be more pleased with this year's data. You can see that we grew by 9 percentage points. Again, we would be cautionary in saying it's only 1 year of data. However, it is the year that we detracked. We went from 3 levels of biology to 2 with a lot of support for teachers, and we had a fabulous showing with 90.5% of our students. I think it also speaks to our science preparation in general, that though our middle school science scores are on the low side, the very next year students are taking the biology exam and doing rather well. So I do believe that they come to us prepared. We're looking forward to English literature this year because English literature is taken in 10th grade, and this is the year that we are going to 2 levels, academic and honors, for English instruction at our high school, and we'll be excited to see what kind of improvements we have in place.
Thank you. I just want to take an opportunity. Thank you, Mrs. Morrison, for bringing up the fact that this was the year that we reduced academic levels in ninth grade, the bio-tested year. One of the concerns expressed by many people was that we would be diluting the rigor of the curriculum. But I think this demonstrates, again, 1 year does not make a trend, but the results are so striking that I think this is some demonstration of the fact that the rigor is there. It's how we are teaching and how we are supporting that is most helpful. Thank you.
One other comment along that line. I do remember when we were looking at and planning for the restructuring that we heard from Abington that the place where they had the most difficulty was in bio. So I think that is just further evidence that what we did to support students was good.
We have some very good news regarding our SATs. As everyone is likely aware, we always place very well, top 20 in the state for SATs. We have the highest SATs we've ever seen. Won't know our rankings until a little later on, but we're very, very pleased. If you compare last year's ranked higher than this year's school. Those numbers are looking very good. However, we'll have to see how everyone else in the state did. But ACT continues to be strong. We did see a trend over the years in number of students, but that seems to be leveling off. And again, a composite score of 25.7 is very good. Also very, very pleased with our AP results. If you take a look in 2017, we gave more exams than we ever have, and we have the highest average of students who have a plus. I believe that we have quite a number of national merit finalists. Mr. Schultz, that'll be confirmed. We're very pleased with the work our teachers did in terms of preparing our students for our AP exams. And again, I think it speaks to the level of rigor we have at our high school. I'll turn it back over. Oh, Dr. Wheeler, you look like you want to make a comment.
Mr. Schultz, am I correct that that data is embargoed for several more days? Is that what we just received today? Was that national merit that we received today? Okay. Okay. I know we received some data that has been embargoed, so I don't want to break it if that was the number. Thank you.
And Dr. Miner is going to talk a little bit about our actions for continuous improvement, K-5.
So again, at the administrative retreat this summer, I had the opportunity to sit down with the elementary principals, the elementary supervisor of special education, and Kathy Smythe, our assistant principal and reading leader, and talk about ways that we could continually improve our achievement at the elementary level. The first thing that we all really keyed in on was the opportunity in the future to explore co-teaching at the elementary level. As Ms. Morrison had just shared, there is some great success with it at the high school, and we believe that we could enjoy success in the elementary schools as well. So we'll spend this year looking into the potential of co-teaching in the future. We also spent some time looking at standards, particularly in this case in ELA, making sure that they were aligned. As you know, we adopted new curriculum last year in ELA. We continue to move forward with RTI, and so we're going to continue to rigorously review and revise as necessary to make sure that we're aligned in those standards. We have, as of today, begun our RTII implementation, and we'll continue to watch that closely and make sure that we're experiencing the success that we look forward to for our students in that RTI implementation. We are going to focus this year in terms of professional development primarily on guided reading. We're really excited about utilizing guided reading as part of our ELA curriculum, and I think our teachers are ready to go with that and very motivated to do that work. And then we're also going to do some work around mathematics, looking to make sure that we have professional development where needed around all of the different math standards, as well as any curriculum work we may need to do in mathematics. So we're going to be using a variety of data sets across the board and continuing to look for ways that we can do better and have our students enjoy greater success.
Thank you. More comments? Oh, is there more? Oops, sorry.
Again, at our administrative retreat, and looking at and thinking about what's to come at the middle school, Dr. Clark and her team actions. There's a lot of things going on at our middle school. One, I think everyone knows that we are getting a new schedule, and so we're very excited to see how the luxury of some extra be able to take a deeper look at STAR, which is coming for 6th to 10th grade. We have started, we're dipping our toe into an MTSS protocol, which is the fancy and new name for RTI at our middle school, and we're using a platform called Branching Minds that uses cognitive, academic, and behavioral data to give recommendations to teachers as they plan for interventions using, and I'm going to borrow a term from Mr. Vinogradov, a single pane of glass. So we'll see how that goes, and we're excited about that. You can see a lot of the support we're getting is through curriculum, through our curriculum design. We are entirely designed to our Pennsylvania standards, and I want to say that cautiously by saying designed to the standards and beyond, because I think just designing to the standards probably would impoverish our students more than it would help them. So, and we're going to continue visiting other exemplar districts so we can learn from them. At the high school, there will be a big focus on restructuring 10th grade to make sure that students are well supported and that there are high academic standards. There's an emergence both at the middle and the high school on personalized learning, something that puts students at the heart of learning and supports them as we begin to look at more personalized paths for students. We're going to be using Branching Minds and STAR at the high school for our 9th and 10th grade students, and have continued to add some things. We're excited about a platform for AP teachers that will help AP teachers do formative assessments by pushing out just-in-time AP-style questions that students can work on at home, and teachers can see a full report of their progress so that they'll be able to design next day instruction based on what students actually know. We get a full-time psychologist, and we're very excited about our student ambassador program as we have over 80 students interested in making Upper Dublin High School a very, very welcoming place for all. With that, we welcome any questions or comments.
So are there any questions or comments from the board, from the committee?
When did we put the new science curriculum in 8th grade?
Two years ago, we began backward designing 3 years ago, and it is a continuous ongoing process, but I would say it has been complete. And just to add something to that, our 8th grade science program is a physical science program. Our 7th grade program is a biological science program. Students are tested. They're tested on everything between 4th and 8th grade.
I was just curious how many students, either in number or percent, take SATs, and how many take both ACTs and SATs? I don't know if you know that. I didn't ask for that ahead of time.
I can get that information to you. I do know that for our school performance profile, we always get full points for college readiness, which is related to both our SAT score and number of students who take SATs.
Also, I was wondering if you could, this is for Dr. Miner, speak a little bit to the ELA curriculum work that went on over the summer and how that supports the beginning of the ELA program this year.
Yes. So Kathy Smythe, along with reading specialists and teachers throughout the district in the elementary grades, got together to focus on feedback that we received from teachers throughout the year regarding the implementation of ReadyGen. And they did some fantastic work posting things like student exemplars to Google Classroom so that teachers, students could see what exemplary student work look like. They also were able to utilize a scope and sequence that ReadyGen put out electronically and modify that scope and sequence to reflect the addition of foundations and other changes that we were making to the curriculum throughout the summer. So they did some fantastic work, and I think we are really in a great place to start the year with that program at this time.
It also, just in reading a couple of the comments, seemed like the beginning of the school in service, the PD that was provided, that went over really well and helped people.
Yes, I think, again, on the first day of school, the grade level teachers who had done that work were able to meet with their grade level teams across the district and present the summer work, which was outstanding. I got to visit several classrooms and really see colleagues speaking to colleagues about the work that they had done, and it was really done well. And then at the elementary level, the following day, we had training on junior grade books. And again, I was able to visit each of the schools, and the feedback on that was very, very good. And I think teachers are excited and feel very prepared to start the year.
Thank you. Does anybody else have any comments or questions?
I know that there is always interest in benchmarking our scores against peer districts, and when Mrs. Morrison and Dr. Miner prepare the extended data report to the board, which will probably be November or more likely December, we will be benchmarking against peer districts. So the board will have that more full report. May I just make a... for those of you who are relying on a printed agenda, it appears that there is several of the pages did not get printed. I apologize for that. Ms. Evans was assembling the agenda just before she left the office, as she always does, to make sure everything's in there, and she received some information family-related that caused her to leave very quickly. So I apologize if those agendas are not completely accurate, but this is also on board docs. So if anyone has a particular problem with that, please let me know. Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions or comments before we move on? Okay. So we have a number of items for today. The first one is district funding of PSATs. Mrs. Morrison, do you want to speak to that?
With many thanks and appreciation to Donna Ward, who is our K-12 guidance counselor. This spring, she brought it to the high school administration's attention that many of the districts that surround us actually pay for PSAT testing. It is a test that we administer to 10th and 11th graders. It is done during the school day. The concern is that students who perhaps don't have family support or financial readiness to fund the PSAT, even though it can be taken free of charge for students who qualify, there could be a communication disruption. And so we found that perhaps some students were staying at home instead of coming in, that it was far more equitable for students to all come to school and all take that test together. It is an opportunity for them to practice. They get detailed information based on that practice. They can drill down to how they did based on difficulty of question, and again is seen as a college readiness assessment. Actually, when I saw this on the agenda, I was surprised we didn't
pay for it already, and I somehow remember at least some discussion about this, and I thought we might have paid for it and then stopped paying for it. Is that true, Mr. Schultz? Okay. I don't know what anyone else feels, but I would strongly support this.
Do we have an idea how many kids weren't taking it because we weren't paying for it, or because of?
I'm not sure how many students were not taking it or not coming in that day, but enough to raise concern.
So it's not considered a mandatory part of the schedule. It's just, I remember also at the time when we first paid for it, I think that's when we moved to offer it during the school day, which was a way to encourage more people to take it. Mm-hmm. Probably for the same reason, that it was good preparation.
Agreed, and I think that this is, if we're going to ask students to take assessments during the school day, then we should also fund those assessments.
Approximately 5 or 6 years ago, I think, the decision was made, a recommendation from the administration at that time was to stop paying for these exams. And I know some of us at that time did have concerns and questioned the small cost of $10,800 and the benefits I think that we would gain. So I'm really pleased to see that we're bringing this back.
As a small note, this will be for this year coming out of the Upper Dublin High School budget, and as it was something that arose in the spring after the curriculum department had already presented their budget, and so, but that you will be seeing that for our curriculum budget in December when we present.
Just to better understand that, Dr. Levinowitz, do you recall, was it because that was the time when we were having the financial issues and that? Okay, thank you. Thank you.
The one thing I remember, I tried to look back at the timing, but I do remember a spring 2012 presentation of ways that we could save money, and that was one of the items on the list. Okay, moving on to the next.
Can I ask one more question on that?
Sure.
Are there other optional standardized tests that we fund?
Not that I am aware of.
Thank you.
Well, there will be AP testing, which is something that has been discussed before, and districts have different guidelines regarding that. So that is standardized test that is administered through our high school as a testing site, though we do sometimes have outside students who come in the spring of each year.
And do we fund our students who
We do not.
or subsidize at all? Okay.
Again, though, if you're a low-income student, then that student would have access.
Right. Thank you.
I don't want to get into a discussion of whether we should fund AP tests now, but I think there are a range of opinions, and the arguments are not as clear-cut in that case as they are in the PSATs. And if nothing else, let's move on to the purchase of level literacy materials. Dr. Miner, do you want to discuss that?
Yes, I would like to discuss that. So at the last year, we proposed moving forward with LLI as our Tier 3 intervention. And you may recall that we have purchased several sets of new kits between last year's budget and this year's budget. We had some existing kits in the district in grades K1 and 2 that were first edition kits. And so I did not propose purchasing new kits in those grade levels. However, the new kits come with some materials that would bring the first edition kits up to speed so that all of the 4 buildings would be working with the same quality of materials. And so I'm recommending that we do at this time, now that we've had the opportunity to review those materials, and we feel collectively, the reading specialists who will be using them and our department, that they would in fact be of significant benefit, that we purchase those materials to bring the first edition kits to second edition standards.
Any comments or questions?
Was this in the curriculum budget, the end of
So
last
there
year?
was general monies for materials and supplies, and these are all materials, they're not textbooks, so it would fall under that category.
Okay, also, item A, Dr. Ludwig, did your committee recommend to move that forward?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, so we didn't have an opportunity to review the material ahead of time. I mean, looking at what we had currently versus the new stuff that was coming in. I'm just wondering why, I mean, I would have loved to have done this, you know, back in May or whenever we were doing this in the spring versus doing it now.
Right, the second edition literally came out in July, so we had no opportunity to look at it until it came out in July.
If you agree, we'll recommend moving this on.
Okay.
Next is the guided reading and Fountas and Pinnell benchmark for professional development.
Yes, again, at a previous Education Committee meeting, I proposed guided reading training for grades K to 2 at the November in-service, and at that time I shared with the committee that I would be coming back with a date for 3 to 5 training that will occur at the February in-service, so we have been able to secure that date. That's why I'm asking for this as a separate motion. While the trainer is in town, she flies in, she's one of 40 Fountas and Pinnell available trainers. We would like her to stay. It's cost efficient to have her stay and provide benchmark training, which is the ability to level students very precisely for guided reading. And so we'll train all of the reading specialists in that, and then teacher representatives as well, who can then do turnaround training on using that Fountas and Pinnell benchmark moving forward.
Comments or questions? You know, I support doing the development to make sure that those materials and are, you know, used the way they're, optimally. Thank you. Next is the purchase of science FOSS kits.
So 3 years ago, the science department at the elementary level, under the direction of Kim Small and Mrs. Morrison, undertook redesigning our science curriculum at the elementary level. It was a multi-year process, and part of that process was the purchase of FOSS kits, which are hands-on science activities related to the curriculum as designed. And this represents the final major purchase of those kits as part of that adoption. They'll continue to be consumable materials that will need to be purchased, but this is the final large purchase, barring unforeseen growth in the district at this point.
Comments or questions? We support that, moving that forward then. Next is student activities.
Most of the student activities involve our exchange programs. The very first one, Upper Dublin High School British Exchange, that is a motion for our annual British Exchange program. Our British students come in October, and then our American students will travel to their hosts in the spring. That trip has been somewhat reduced, and you can see that in the motion. And it includes the district support. Again, you'll see with the other motions that when students come to the United States, and we have students coming this year from Great Britain, from Germany, and from Spain, we host those students in exchange, and that's what that $3,000 support is for the British Exchange. Each of our exchange programs asks for and receives the same amount of money. When our students travel there, that is reciprocated there. You can see the other motions are for trips that are happening while our students are visiting from other countries, but trips that some of our Upper Dublin students and staff will go on that are either out of state. Most of these are out of state, so that requires a board motion.
Comments or questions?
These are the standard trips that they take: New York City, Washington, D.C.
That's correct.
Just curious, do we budget this typically out of general budget or the high school budget? Does it come out? Do you know? When we,
I can make an estimated guess, which is that it comes out of general, not out of high school.
okay.
I support moving these forward also. So the last item is conferences.
Are there any questions about the conferences?
No.
Can we just say a couple of words?
Yeah.
I'm really excited that Upper Dublin was approved to present at the PASA PSBA Leadership Conference. Can you just speak briefly about that activity? Because it is coming up. It is next month.
It is on October 18th. A group of Upper Dublin staff and community members will be traveling to give a presentation about our excellence and equity journey. We'll have Dr. Lewinowitz introduce our district. Dr. Wheeler will make some comments about her work and goals for our district around achievement for all students. It's actually, the presenters are close to a cast of thousands for a reason, to show that it takes a community to raise a child, and everybody has a part in that. And so we're very excited, and we feel honored that we were invited to present at an important statewide conference.
And this was a juried selection, which makes it all the more impressive that we were selected to do that. So I am so proud of the excellence and equity work that we're doing, and now we're going to be able to share that at a statewide level.
I'm looking forward to hearing that at the conference. If there are no other questions about any of the other conferences, we'll move those forward also. I think that covers everything that we have on the agenda tonight, so we are ready for community input, if there's anyone who would like to speak. You are a community member, I just didn't know if you were. I see a few community members not coming up, so I guess that will be, we will conclude the meeting. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And have a good year.